Paul as well, with you, myself and Eoin with you here on a Friday morning. Eoin, how's it going?
Good, how are you?
Budapest was good.
It was great, yeah. It was last weekend now.
I know, you've probably been through the travel review, have you?
Yeah, 100%.
And what was the highlights of that?
In depth, we did it in great depth.
Baths, ticked off.
Ticked off.
What were they like? So. What was the any sort of indication that you were there is what I'm looking for.
They were thermal and that's probably the best adjective I can use to describe them.
They were thermal.
I've basically read the TripAdvisor review and I've learnt off all the lines. I did not go.
Did you see any of Budapest?
No.
Right.
Not really, no.
So you'll have to make a return trip.
Well, exactly, and next time I do it, I'll make sure to bring it up in the show, and you can give me an on-air sort of travel recommendation list once again.
I've nothing more to offer you other than go to the Gellert Baths and go and have a walk around that little sports island in the middle of the river. I've nothing more, literally, I mean, but I do appreciate that it's two more things than you've had from your 3 or 4 days, whatever it was you were there, 5 days over the weekend.
Yeah, I guess a disappointed touristic experience is how I would put it, but an enjoyable one all the same.
But not a disappointment in general.
Exactly. So I think we're all happy.
And move on?
And move on.
Two things we want to touch on at the top outside of your trip, non-trip last weekend. First of them, I was listening to Off the Ball last night, making dinner at home, getting kids ready for bed, that sort of thing is what's happening in my life at that time of an evening. And next thing, I am sort of hearing a conversation that I definitely had never expected to hear at the top of the show, which was Nathan in conversation with Stewie Byrne, who'd be a regular voice in football and Off the Ball, about how he's written an album. And not only has he written an album, he's gone and recorded it and sung the theme tune, wrote the theme tune and recorded the album.
That's amazing.
Are you aware of this hidden talent?
No, not at all.
So there was a great tease. We'll play some of this for you in the football show was the tease. So, you know, I'd obviously always love the football show and tune in every night.
It's a good old 2-hour tee up right there, isn't it?
I made an extra effort to tune in last night. And sure enough, here's what happened. Top of the football show last night.
Let's hear it. Stewie Byrne, superstar.
Hear the crowd, feel the rush. Drum to your beating pulse. Light the dying night, anything that you do.
That's class.
Yeah,
isn't
really.
it?
Somebody was playing that in the office earlier on. And I was like, who is that? I was like, and I'd heard separately that Stewie Byrne had sung on the show last night, and not for 1 second did I put 2 and 2 together. Like, that sounds unbelievable. How did we not hear this before?
It's also, that song was about Wes Hoolahan.
Was it?
If you listen to the lyrics closely, it's like, you're raw and
street footballer.
Street footballer does not quite come up. I think he's more sort of using euphemism, but it's
superstar.
Class. Yeah. Like, it's very 80s influenced, obviously. He mentioned some of his influences last night.
What were the specific influences?
But it's bloody exceptional, was the main thing that I thought. Like, because the concern you have in that instance is, let's say you were to land in here someday and go, listen lads, I haven't spoken to anyone about this, but like, I've written an album, I'm big into writing songs, and like, it was a huge deal for him, by the way, because he had said on the way over, actually what happened was, he was driving over here yesterday, pulled up at a set of traffic lights, and Paul Galvin walked across the road in front of him. And as Stewie Byrne was coming over, he was unsure as to whether he was going to play the song or not. And then he saw Paul Galvin and he thought, well, here's a guy who has had a sports career and has gone on to choose a totally different path that nobody would have expected. It's an omen, it's a sign, when I get over I'm going to play the music. Fair
play. Like, obviously comes from a talented family. Of course, his sister was teaching Kevin Kilban how to DJ there a couple of months ago with Groove Armada, so big shoes to fill there from that perspective, but highly impressed.
So what I'm saying is, if you were to land in and say, here, I've got all this hidden talent that I've been working on, like, we're in the lap of the gods, because it could be shite.
No, I've got no talent, so I'll never come in and say that. But I'll probably believe that I'm talented, so you.
But that's exactly the point. So we could go and play the song. It could be shite. I'd have to sit there and go, oh, and that's, look, keep at it. It's great. Like, sounds like a great thing to be doing. Sort of, But like, that wasn't the case. There was you didn't need to pretend with that last night. It was great.
Yeah, it's almost it was brilliant. Like, I was going to say, it's almost the best thing we've heard from an Irish footballer ever, but I think that would actually be doing an injustice to the track, because I can't actually think of too many other Irish footballers who produced anything of that quality off the football pitch.
It would almost be an insult to say to Stewie Byrne that he's written the best football song of all time.
Yeah, calling it a football song is a bit disrespectful, I think.
Yeah.
It's just a great
I mean,
song.
but that might also be true.
I actually need to listen to the full track before I say it's a great song. But from what I've heard, the teaser, it's like when, back in the iTunes day, when you'd get like a 15-second teaser. That's what I've got right now, and I'm paying the 99 cents.
And you're hungry for more. Good.
Hungry for more.
Well, he's considering sort of releasing it out over the next while, so watch his space, I think, is the short story with that. Or you can, I presume, you can listen back on offtheball.com to last night's segment as well, where the full 2 odd minutes of it was played. The other thing that sort of caught our interest during the week was if you were tuned in on
yesterday morning.
Nathan had been over at the Etihad Stadium the previous night and had been checking out Man City against West Ham and was not overly enthused by the game, as anybody who would have seen it could agree with. And he also spoke about the fact that he really only went over there to talk to Declan Rice and I know the line wasn't great, but he gave good detail about the mix on afterwards and how he was sort of hanging around and looking to get his microphone in front of Declan Rice and like painted it in full Technicolor great detail. And I was only like, the thing that I was watching it and I was kind of thinking, the only thing this is missing is if somebody had taken any video of it, you could actually have seen what had happened. And he had video of it. He
really?
Just didn't bother mentioning this to anybody.
Even though he was on live with us yesterday morning.
Here we go. Boy.
Should we grab a quick word, Declan? Should we grab a quick word, Declan?
Can we get burned?
Should we grab a quick word, Declan?
Like, at some point in the future, there are going to be epitaphs are going to become digital things that you can actually put a GIF on, or you can put some sort of highlight on, and that could be Nathan's.
We must tweet out that beside the GIF of, I'm not sure if you've seen the James Harden GIF, the Houston Rockets basketball player,
no.
where he like turns his head towards the interviewer and then turns his head swiftly away and then gets the hell off the court. It's as close as I've seen anything to that. I'm not sure why Nathan didn't show that to us yesterday morning. It's almost as if he's embarrassed of it. It's almost as if that was the sole reason he went over to that match and it was all over in 2 seconds.
Yeah, totally bizarre. And like, I'm sure that Declan Rice, I mean, I know Nathan doesn't watch anyway, so it's fine. Had no clue who Nathan was and had no clue that he was from an Irish broadcaster. I'm sure it was just a good luck to you. Like, there was no slight against the nation, as Nathan would have it.
Well, if he doesn't know who Nathan is, then the rest of us are all doomed.
Right, any thoughts on any of that stuff? Get your thoughts into us on the hashtag and we'll bring those to the audience between now and about 9:15, 9:30, or maybe even 10:15. And we've bloody stacked show for you this morning as well. Lots of really good people to speak to. We're going to tell you what's happening in the sports pages in just a few minutes' time. Phil Thompson's become a bit of a regular on a Friday morning over the last few weeks, so why deviate from that? We're going to get Phil's thoughts on the Merseyside derby this weekend. Everton against Liverpool on Sunday afternoon, so we're going to get Phil's thoughts on that at about 8:10. The rise of the goalkeeper in Gaelic football is going to be the subject matter for Paddy O'Rourke, who will join us after that. The sports news in the company of Darren Cleary at about 9:15, and then at 9:10 we're reuniting the dream team from last weekend. Ronan O'Gara and Alan Quinlan are going to be here. Ronan O'Gara from Brisbane this morning ahead of their game against the Reds tomorrow, and Alan Quinlan in studio here. And I'm sure we'll be reflecting on the fact that the engine of Peter O'Mahony did not overheat last weekend in the end.
True. Yeah, that's true. I was just thinking that was your big argument last weekend, wasn't it? You were saying that it would overheat, and former professional rugby players Ronan O'Gara and Alan Quinlan were correct, lo and behold.
No, you're totally misrepresenting my point clearly again. I was saying
you said Peter O'Mahony was going to explode into an incredible Hulk-esque character.
I'm still saying, by the way, that he has that capacity, and like, he's proven that over a long number of games. Like, mostly if you're looking at a game, I'm exaggerating now to make my point, and I'll say that before I start off this, but mostly when you're looking at a game that he's involved with and there's a bit of a schmozzle, generally it's a short odds bet that he's somewhere in the middle of it.
Kind of like the person who stops the schmozzle is always in the middle of it. Let's not forget that.
Well, I'll also add, he's never trying to stop the schmozzle.
If there was ever a schmozzle in any walk of life, Peter O'Mahony is somebody I would want on my side.
No,
in fact,
true.
He's probably above any other sports person, somebody I would want on my schmozzle side.
But maybe not captain material, is that what you're saying?
Absolutely not. The exact opposite of that. Because I want him on my schmozzle side, I want him to be my captain. Whereas I don't know what sort of anti-Munster bias you got going on this morning.
The Shehan schmozzle side could be a brand new feature on the show.
Wow, that's as good as alliteration gets right there.
Right, just coming up on 8 o'clock on this Friday morning. It's delighted to have you along with us, and lots of sports conversation coming your way in the next hour and a little bit, so stay tuned for that and do get your thoughts into it as well. We do want to hear from you, but we're going to kick off the back pages this morning with a pretty cool photograph of Timothy Lamb. The back page of the Irish Independent there. That is Roscommon CBS booking their place in the Connacht Senior Cup final for the very first time. They had a win yesterday and play Garbally now in the final in the middle of March, and Timothy is pretty excited. It's not a sport that obviously they're generally associated with, and that's great.
Yeah, it's weird that we've got like a couple of stories like that in schools rugby over the past decade or so. Like Ross Cray a couple of years ago was a big one as well. So it's great to see that. I said to you this morning, your beloved Roscommon doing well, which seems to irk you more than most.
Piss off, Owen, is my short response to
What's
that.
wrong with Roscommon?
Well, I'm not from Roscommon. Roscommon's absolutely fine.
You just seem to get particularly exercised whenever we describe you as a Connacht man or a Roscommon man.
It's just that it's just bullshit is the, like, if I constantly refer to you as a Cork man,
Be like, fine. I'd be like,
after a while you'd be like, this is bullshit.
Wow, I'm sensing a lot of skeletons in the closet here.
There's no skeletons in
Did
the
somebody
closet.
from Roscommon hurt you?
No, I do have a lot. I'm from Westmeath, and it's not like a good catapult would lob a stone into the Shannon, right? So that's the sort of proximity, which isn't quite the official border either. But I have a lot of mates who would be from roughly my vicinity, some of them even further into Westmeath, and would be Connacht supporters. And there's a constant debate about whether one should support Connacht or Leinster. Now, I'm from Leinster, the province. I would just find it weird that even though my local club, which is right beside where I grew up, is officially applies their trade in Connacht rugby and supplies a load of players to Connacht rugby, I'm from Leinster. I would find it weird to be supporting another province.
Well, I guess
That's the background.
Like, I guess nationalism and provincialism is a fluid thing, Adrian. So you do you, and congratulations on being a Leinster man.
Oh, you're a wanker. De Gea ups the ante at United and bid for 500 grand a week deal is the other headline here, that star goalkeeper wants to double his money and match Sanchez as the club's highest paid player, in a headline that gets repeated at least a few times a year, that David De Gea clearly rates his worth, and whether United do likewise, I would argue, is maybe a bit of a law of diminishing returns, that the better United get, the less weight that De Gea has in that argument when he steps into that office and said, listen lads, if I wasn't here you're screwed. That's actually becoming less of an argument the better United get.
There is truth in that for sure. Like, he is still will he be front runner to win Player of the Year once again for Manchester United this year? I think probably since the turn.
Pogba could be up there.
Pogba, Marcus Rashford would certainly be kind of leading that as well. So I'm not sure if he's dead cert to win another, though. I think he's got like 4 Player of the Year awards, which is quite something for a goalkeeper at a club. But yeah, you're probably right in something you're saying. But there is also the element of Manchester United this summer now saying that they need to keep all their good parts if they're going to actually make that full improvement. Because let's face it, there probably is still an element of a new manager bounce going on at Manchester United. How do they actually double down on that and make sure that it becomes a long-running, solid thing? And it is, plan A is keeping your best assets at the club. And I think David De Gea, £500,000 a week. It's a lot of money for a goalkeeper, but unfortunately, they've screwed themselves with Alexis Sanchez, haven't they?
Yeah, and I'm not sure that money actually means a huge amount to United anyway, but like, and I'm not saying for a second, by the way, they get rid of him. Like, he's clearly one of the best goalkeepers on the planet, and you'd find it tough to replace him, but at the same time, I'm just saying that when he's sitting there saying that now, suddenly they have a little bit more strength in that conversation. So that's De Gea at United. Dr. Crokes in rude health for final as Buckley is cleared. This was the story, you might have seen some of the coverage on the Off the Ball social channels yesterday. Johnny Buckley, right, Cullen Keys here, has been cleared to play for Dr. Crokes in the All-Ireland Club final later this month. He was before the CHC last night to overturn the red card that he picked up against Mullinochta in that semi-final, and the footage ran on the Off the Ball social channels yesterday of exactly what went on. It hadn't been picked up by cameras. It was shown on TG Car, and this exact incident hadn't been picked up by the cameras. But anyway, as it turned out, there was a little bit of a sort of a low velocity rabbit punch, is how I might best describe it, to the stomach of his opponent, and the CHE decided last night that it didn't deserve a red card and that he was cleared to play.
Yeah, a lot of divergent opinions on that one, isn't there? You look at the kind of reaction to the thing on social media. And I would need to see the exact wording of what the appeal was last night. Was it an overturning or something like that? Because quite often, if you've got such divergent opinions, now granted, social media is by no means a place to make any decision on any part of anybody's life, but it is sometimes a mini straw poll of what the opinion is. And sometimes you'd be a little bit surprised that something gets overturned because there is such a wide spectrum of opinions on it. But Dr. Croke will be delighted with that. He's going to be such hugely important. Like I was just thinking about this the other day. I mean, who's going to come in for him in midfield in the eventuality that he would miss out? And thankfully they don't. From their perspective, they don't have to think about that now. So that just kind of, you want all the best players on the pitch really for that encounter, because as I was saying a couple of weeks ago, I think it's going to be one of the best club finals we've had in a long, long time.
Are Dr. Crowe's watching that footage going, oh, this is great, this clears them, I wonder? Now, we don't know because, as you said, the exact wording hasn't been released, but I wondered, how early...
Somebody filmed that, and it was brought in as part of the hearing last night, so you can only assume that Dr. Croakes looked at that and they thought this certainly helps our case. Because, as you say, there was no television cameras to actually grab that. That wasn't a TG Cahir camera, clearly. That must have been somebody's club camera, or potentially just somebody behind the goals. It's hard to actually tell. The suspicion is that it was part of the hearing, and it definitely would have been viewed as beneficial from a Dr. Croak standpoint. Okay, we'll come back to that a bit later on. We'll show the footage too around 8:30 or thereabouts. On the Irish Examiner this morning is a picture of Joey Carbery. Giant strides, rides for Ronan O'Gara. Carbery has become a live option at test level. This is the weekly Ronan O'Gara column in the Irish Examiner. Johnny Sexton menacingly looking over his shoulder. Maybe it's not that menacing, he's just kind of benign glance in Joey Carbery's direction. Interesting to hear the conversation with you during the week that he was saying that you were kind of offering the idea that you'd be a great support to players now, and I'd say you're sort of cajoling them along and giving them little bits of breadcrumbs as you go. No, not really. I mean, if they want to come and ask me, that's fine, but I ain't going to them. Yeah, fair enough, I guess. And I guess there's a lot of truth in the idea that you learn via osmosis quite a bit in those sort of environments, that you just watch and you learn. And from a Joey Carbery standpoint, I would contend that the thing he's learned most from is just being on the pitch and starting big European games for Munster this season. And, you know, there might be little things that he's seen that Johnny Sexton do in training, or seen him do on the pitch, or seen him do up close and personally at Leinster perhaps, that have influenced how he behaves and ultimately influences how he plays the game. But really, it's putting that into practice, and it is wearing the red shirt at 10 or the whatever it was, 60 minutes against Scotland. That's where Joey Carbery really becomes the next Johnny Sexton, not by like sitting there and chatting to him, you know? Yeah, maybe it's a bit of both though too. I do think though, if you are Carbery or any of those 10s coming up, like how likely on the other side of that are you to go over and go, hey Johnny, listen, I was just thinking about, you know, that lovely sort of wraparound move that you do, the loop pass. Like, I might try to become a bit of a master of that. Like, what, we do a few sessions? Yeah, Johnny, your kicking is really, really good. You're so good at rugby. Is there any chance you could do a few one-on-one sessions? The Irish Times, meanwhile, it's rugby all the way here as well. Six Nations far from backing the new league. This is the story that blew up over the last 48 hours, that World Rugby had a plan to initiate a brand new rugby World League. Our Nations Championship, as I've seen referred to it as well, and Jerry Thornley writing here that not everybody's fully behind this thing, and clearly there was some statements from the Rugby Players Association as well, also in the guise of their president Johnny Sexton this week, and they're not overly enthused by it either. Proposal has more holes than a soup strainer is the line of the morning so far in relation to that particular story, and we're going to get the thoughts of Ronan O'Gara and Alan Quinlan on that as well a little bit later this morning. It's the theme that's picked up in the Times Ireland edition as well. Sexton leads revolt over league plan. Alex Lowe and Matt Hughes writing here that international rugby's at war after Johnny Sexton and Owen Farrell participated in an angry revolt of senior players against proposals for a new global championship. 40 players was one report that I read. 40 international players had jumped on a conference call on Tuesday night to pick through all of this, which would be a conversation that I would love to have been able to eavesdrop on. How even the mechanics of 40 people on a phone call actually works. But maybe it was just Johnny at the sort of top of the table in the sort of Dr. No role, you know, saying, listen lads, listen up, hush up, gather round, that sort of thing. Yeah, how much is each rugby union going to make was a question posed, and then it just does a zoom in on Johnny Sexton. He's like $1 million, and he does the
little finger into his mouth.
Exactly. I presume that's how the conversation went.
Waterford to make Walsh Park return is the other story here from Paul Keane. That it looks as though Waterford, a lot of controversy about this over the last couple of years, are going back to Walsh Park. That there was a bit of an infrastructure issue there, but it's all going to get sorted, and it seems as if, according to this report anyway, that they'll be back as early as this summer.
This summer, yeah. This is actually an interesting one because Walsh Park's current capacity is 11,000, if I'm not mistaken, and it's been a long, long time since they played a Munster Championship game there. And the reason why they haven't played a Munster Championship game there for so long is because 11,000 people, it is viewed as just too small a crowd to have at a big Munster Championship game. This isn't too dissimilar to, the sentiment we've been hearing around Parnell Park over the last couple of weeks, is it? It'll be interesting to see what the reaction is from the Waterford public, from the travelling public for those two games, from the other county as well. Will they be demoralised and completely gutted by the fact that they can't actually go and see their team play in the flesh because there's only 11,000 of them allowed in? Or will they get around to the idea that actually this is fine, this is fair, this is better than Waterford having to play their two home games in a neutral venue? Once again, echoes of the sentiment that we're talking about when it comes to Dublin at the moment.
There was a stand issue of some sort. I'm just trying to find the exact line here, but there was some sort of...
No, obviously that was the issue. The issue wasn't down to the fact that there was too little people. When it comes to last year's competition, it was a health and safety issue last year. But I'm talking about previous Munster Championships.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. What's the capacity of Parnell Park?
Something similar, isn't it?
Right.
12, 13 maybe?
Yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing one. I thought we were going to get through a full morning without having to go at the Doves to play in Crow Park. Not to be.
Should we move on?
Let's move on.
Back page of the Herald is I'm up for it. Duff ready to fight for cause in Celtic role. Damien Duff there celebrating with their late winner against Hearts midweek. He says, I'm ready for it. I know the role and I know the club and it's a massive honour. Celtic is more than a club. Here you're fighting for more than that. You're fighting for a cause as well. I know what the club means to fans. It means the same to me, so I'm ready. I understand the club and Celtic Football Club aside. Myself and football, I'm all about emotion and enthusiasm, as you can see by the picture there. And also, Spurs and United on alert for bail sale, says Charlie Rushholm. So, Gareth Bale looks like he's going to be out the exit door at Real Madrid this summer. That will be how Tottenham Hotspur go to the next level. Do two things. Give Pochettino what he wants, and what he wants is a transfer kitty to spend on players. And a perfect available player who's got a bit of an emotional attachment to the club is Gareth Bale, who becomes available. If you keep Maurizio Pochettino and you get Gareth Bale, are Tottenham Hotspur Premier League title contenders next season?
Now, they've spent almost nothing over the last 2 years, right?
They haven't bought a player since Lucas Moura last January.
Point one. So the evidence of that they're going to book that trend anytime soon is scant. And even if they were, would it be Gareth Bale? Would he want to go back to Tottenham? Like, maybe he would. There is that attachment there, but there obviously been hot links with United as well over the last few years. And their capacity to hang on to Pochettino obviously is another thing that's speculated upon in some of the papers this morning. But so I think I appreciate that we are actually in the business of hypothesising, but does that win them the Premier League?
Doesn't make them title contenders.
It definitely makes them title contenders. But you could probably argue that they are title contenders already.
Well, they're closer to sixth than they are to second at the moment.
Fair point.
So I would say that they're not at all title contenders, and that they're slipping further away from that veneer that they've shown us over the last couple of months. I would say that if I think it's actually a crossroads here. It's like Gareth Bale and Maurizio Pochettino, or another player of Gareth Bale's ilk, or multiple players, big spending, or you lose Pochettino and you probably don't sign anybody else, because that may be the primary reason why Pochettino leaves. He's cut a frustrated figure over the last week or so. I just think if you're Daniel Levy, you've got one last punt. Can you be the man who oversaw a club that went from challenging for top four a couple of seasons ago, not even being in the Champions League, to actually winning the Premier League? That would be one hell of a great business story, and I'm sure that's something that appeals to Levy. He's actually on the back of the Sun as well this morning. We'll get to that in just a sec. But out of touch is the back of the Irish Daily Mail. Fulham axe Ranieri over dated style. And O'Driscoll hopes squad went on the lash in Belfast, says this story by David O'Dornan. So Brian O'Driscoll hopes the Ireland squad have gone out on the piss during their training stint in Belfast. The former Ireland captain believes an old-school drinking session would help Joe Schmidt's men get over their defeat by England in the Six Nations and error-laden performances against Scotland and Italy. I think this group of players and coaching staff aren't panicking. The whole country seems to be panicking, but I don't think they are, they said. Or he said, I should say. Back page of The Sun. is Spurs in Real trouble? I presume that's a pun. I presume it's Real trouble, not real trouble. Ambitious Poch eyeing the exit door. And of course, Real Madrid, one of the clubs linked with getting their hands on Maurizio Pochettino as their next manager. Back page of the Irish Daily Star then is also ran. Claudio sacked again after slump at Fulham, while Parker takes the helm with Clark also in line for role. The aim now for Fulham really is get relegated well. Like, just having Claudio Ranieri there with no real plan of succession in terms of how you're actually going to be playing football in 12 months' time. Like, Ranieri could barely plan for next week, let alone for 12 months' time. I think that's a really vital step. And like Scott Parker, I think, taking a chance on him, certainly on an interim basis, they could do a hell of a lot worse than that. Back page of the Mirror then, it's Ole yours, Solskjaer. United scrap plan to talk to any rivals after Old Trafford legend's stunning start as stand-in boss. This is David Anderson reporting that he's the only candidate for the Manchester United job, with the club ready to ditch plans to talk to alternative managers. So good news for the Norwegian. The Racing Post then this morning is big game baggies. Albion value to land another vital victory at promotion rivals. It's Leeds against West Brom tonight in the Championship at 7:45. It's Claudio Ranieri leading the way in the Telegraph and Guardian. The Telegraph goes with Dilly Ding, Dilly Dong, Ranieri gone. And the Guardian then goes with Ranieri remains a charming man, but he is not lucky. He's not a lucky charm after all. Paul Wilson talking about the manager's sudden sacking by Fulham. And you've also got Johnny Sexton there pictured on the back of the Guardian. Rugby blueprint under fire. Plans for new World League criticised as undercooked.
He's like a lovely, friendly uncle, isn't he? That's what I feel nothing but sympathy for him.
I don't think there's much room for sympathy in football.
No,
these
there's
days.
not, and that's a bit of a shame, but like, just want to put your arm around him and go, be fine. I presume he doesn't really care either.
Just give them a big hug.
Give him a big hug. Claudio, right. Thanks for that, Owen, for now. We've lots more coming your way. We've Alan Quinlan joining us, Ronan O'Gara joining us, Paddy O'Rourke as well, to look ahead to the weekend's GA and talk about the rise and rise of the Gaelic football goalkeeper.